On today's episode, Danny Hurley turns down the Lakers. What does it mean? Well, I'll try to figure that out as we go through all sorts of different scenarios and what this means for the Lakers. We've also got Joy Taylor talk some finals, her love of the Boston Celtics. Not true. But more importantly, she's going to do a bunch of life advice emails for you guys out there and some gals as well. And we've got the Alliance. Hooray. I'm going to start today's podcast talking about this Danny Hurley story. You go back to last week and then the stuff that Bill and I did on Sunday until we heard that Hurley had turned down the Lakers on Monday. I guess the whole time I was like, I wonder what this is. Like, something doesn't sit right. Whether it was the JJ stuff building and who was reporting that and how accurate any of that was. And then the last minute pivot from Hurley, knowing that he had a contract on the table from UConn, like what went into this. But there's a lot of different ways I want to talk about this subject. So we know that the offer was 6 years, $70 million. The salary would put him at about $11.7 million per year, which would be fifth in NBA salary. So it is the Lakers. I don't care who you are, basketball lifer, Lakers, that kind of salary. But did the salary need to be more to actually close the deal for Hurley? Well, apparently so, or maybe just UConn is still and continues to be the right fit for him at this point in his life. But when I think about Hurley to the Lakers and what it would mean, I always like talking about how we talk about coaches. And I would say that for the most part, when we talk about head coaches in football and in basketball, we're incredibly simple. I don't really know why that happens or why it's so hard for us. I'll admit I have a hard time knowing emphatically like, hey, this coach was really bad tonight, or this coach conversely was really good. Whenever you're bringing in a new head coach to replace the former person, clearly there was something wrong for the other guy to be fired. And I think more often than not, it has nothing to do with what happens within basketball games. It just means over the course of multiple seasons, the players tune them out. And with players that are this special, for any time you're managing or having to manage people that are this talented, it just means that eventually they're going to kind of like believe that they're always right and that you're always wrong. And that means there's going to be a lot of turnover in that profession. And that's what we have in coaching. But there's a couple different things that happen with the way we talk about it. One is the kind of don't screw it up approach, which is probably no better example in basketball than the Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr approach, or that transition where it's like, okay, this is a good team. Things turned around with Mark Jackson, but man, it feels like there's another level that we can't really seem to get to. And it got proven out pretty quickly with Kerr. I mean, that's like one of the all-time examples. And you even have guys that are on the team then, still on the team, that were there for both, that were like, yeah, I think they've been nice about how they've mentioned how much that improved the overall situation. Then you have the coaches that outperform expectations. So those guys have to be good, right? I mean, Spoelstra's the best example of outperforming expectations. I think the 23 Heat run is one of the most impressive runs by a team in modern playoff history, because I just don't think that team was that good. And they're playing for an NBA championship, even over the course of the games at Denver. The gap like finally showed up the way I kept thinking it was going to show up throughout the East. But we know Spo is really good. I think he's the best. But why do I think he's the best? Because they throw a ton of zone in there and be like, oh, man, look at all the zone that they're running. All right, well, that's good because I guess zone is good. And if Spo does it more than everybody else, that means guys are more prepared. And that means he's the best coach. Look, there's enough basketball people that I respect think he's the best coach. That also helps me inform my opinion on that. You could also go with the Heat culture element. And I'm not saying that in any snarky way whatsoever, because there's a real development success story that seems to happen with the Heat that other teams want to emulate. But is that a Spo thing or is that a development thing? Whatever. There's a lot of factors there that are in his favor when we start talking about the really good coaches. Mazzulla apparently is good now, right? I mean, he has to be. He's in the NBA Finals. Now, I like Mazzulla, but I also don't know necessarily like why. Maybe because I was pushing back on all the people that just thought he was bad. Because I'll tell you right now, if he was giving you those quotes and winning 30 games and not 60 games, the public would be like, this guy's terrible and he's not even ready for it. But since Mazzulla is in the NBA Finals, 2 games away from winning a title, he has to be kind of, with the way we do this, default a really good head coach. Doc Rivers, who I think is a good coach for the right team, an older team with veterans, guys with real status in the league, not younger players. But Doc, I don't even think he's allowed to be considered a good coach anymore because of the resume. And the resume stuff can always get in the way of really getting through the weeds of this. It gets back to that simple thing. Well, if this coach has done this and this other coach hasn't done that, then that coach can't be better than the coach that's done it. This is going to go away because of Luka's ascension and whatever could potentially happen, especially if they were to come back and win a title against the Celtics. We know Luka's going to be the best player in the world on all the shows the next morning. But let's go back to a time that isn't that long ago where Trae Young makes an Eastern Conference Finals. Luka makes a Western Conference Finals. They put up both huge stats. Luka has a disappointing season last season. Trae's had multiple disappointing seasons with this team. And you're like, well, how much of a gap is there really between those two guys? Because your podcast didn't slow down. They've only made it to a conference finals, and here are the stats, and here's the bad year. And it's like, you really think that those two guys are even in the same fucking solar system? You do. But that's what happens with resumes. So if I were continuing the exercise, I remember at one point I was like, okay, so you're always looking at the coaching stuff that annoys you, the way coaches are talked about. You find somebody that isn't that good record-wise, that doesn't have a deep playoff resume, that you think is a good coach. I was like, you know what? I like the stuff Terry Stotts runs. I remember that epiphany when I was watching the Trailblazers. Just happened. He was there 9 years. They won 56% of the games. He won 35% of his playoff games. He also must be doing something right in these interviews. There have to be some of these coaches that everybody collectively comes to the point where like, this guy's an idiot. Like, why? Because they don't have a good team and they haven't won, or maybe they had a decent team because they had Dame and there was some stuff I liked about Portland. But you get the point. Like, I was making myself find a coach one season where I go, let's find somebody that has no resume, where you're like, I actually like a lot of the stuff that they do. I like a lot of the stuff that they run, but maybe even the X's and O's aren't the full part of the daily routine of it. But he was there almost an entire decade. The outcoached thing, the default outcoached after somebody wins or loses a series, it will always annoy me until people can be more specific. How did you come to that conclusion? What happened in the series where you think the coach that lost was outcoached? Because we get really predictable about playing the results with this stuff. Let's say somebody experiments with a rotation. Like, these five guys barely played together. That 5-man group had played 12 minutes all regular season and they lost. Well, then you're an idiot. But if you changed up your rotations and played 5 players together in a playoff game that had never played before and you won, that would mean it was great coaching and that you were experimenting. Last second shots, decoy, wide open look on like a second option, miss. Why are you having him take the shot? Step back 3, contested by 3 different players from 30 feet from the star. Coach put his players in the right position. You lose a playoff game, didn't have the guys ready. Win a playoff series, had the guys ready to play. Development. Team drafts a can't-miss lottery pick, makes the all-star team in his 3rd season. This coach can now develop talent. Same team, different lottery pick, an absolute reach. The guy stinks, wasn't going to be good anywhere. If you're losing, that means that coach can't develop. Why am I bringing up all of this stuff? Well, would Hurley have made any difference with the Lakers? Okay, and let's get this on the record. I love him. I love watching his team at UConn play. It's so clear that there's a level of respect that almost is a little touch of fear. I think a little touch of fear is good, that you feel like you have to do it for your coach, that you want to be accountable. Maybe we can throw a couple different descriptors on that. But I think just a little bit of fear, which is probably really rare at any level of college, certainly pro sports right now, but just something where you feel like, I need to execute this the way that he would approve. I think that's still important, although kind of rare. And Hurley had that at UConn. I don't know, you're going to have that in the NBA. He's a Glastonbury guy, as you know. And if you're just learning this, I got some history there. Grandparents are buried there. Father played high school basketball for the Hawks, was a standout in the early 60s. I lived there. They have the best Mexican food I've ever had. And Ceruti, our guy, a Glastonbury native. Hell, 2 guys I grew up with, I think, plow his driveway. So I'm a little biased. I'm always going to root for Hurley. But I think most of us would agree that even with Hurley being better than Darvin Ham, which I think most of us are okay admitting, what is he actually coaching this year with this Lakers team? They went 47-35. They were a 7th seed, granted, in a packed Western Conference. But that's with 71 games from LeBron, somehow at 39 years old, playing the most games that he played in 6 seasons, and Anthony Davis playing 76 games, which is one more than his career high ever played in 12 years. So you want to bet on that happening again? The new third guy. Okay, this imaginary yet obtainable new third guy, which the Lakers, I think, if they want to do it, can find that guy. Now, there's some Reeves trade where I think, you're probably going to regret that one, where other players on this imaginary list, I probably shouldn't call it imaginary, but I think you get the point of the exercise. This guy who we don't know who he is yet, if the Lakers just go all in, which I think they'll have to with LeBron at 39 going into 40, whoever that third guy, there's some people in a Reeves transaction where I go, okay, that one would make some sense. So now you've got a new third guy, but you have the same health. You have the Hurley fairy dust on top of it all. What's the best thing you can do with that group? Is it a 4 seed? And the Buss family, who would, I'd say, as great as they've been with the Lakers, they're not one of the more loaded families. So they're going to pay $70 million for what exactly again? Now, maybe they just wanted something different. Maybe they wanted something at the coaching level where it felt like they were just showing how serious they were. And for Hurley to turn this down, by the way, I've seen this written that it's some massive embarrassment for the Lakers. I just don't see it that way. Like, shouldn't you think it's great that they were proactive and tried to go get the number one guy in college right now, and they think it'd be a right fit, and that Hurley and LeBron could get on the same page, even though I still think the demeanor of Hurley at the NBA level, like after 82 games, that might be something he'd have to dial down a little bit. I don't blame the Lakers for trying, and I don't blame the Lakers for not having it work out. I don't know what would have changed this. I guess the money. Apparently, if Hurley has a deal on the table, it's 6 years and $50 million, but it isn't signed yet based on some reports. Maybe he wanted to scare UConn for a little bit. Maybe that total number gets something added to it, and that's what this all was. Or maybe he actually woke up one day and said, I do want to be the Lakers head coach, and then woke up another day and said, I actually don't want to do it, which has happened a lot, especially with the guys transitioning from somewhere where they're really comfortable to feeling all in and then going, you know what, I can't do it. I don't know. Maybe there was some other reason if Hurley, in fact, was going to do it. Maybe he got more information and decided, you know what, I'm going to change my mind and stay at UConn. Here's the last thing that I want to hit on with this, because now what we have, whenever we look at the college guy leaving to go to the professional ranks, it becomes a referendum on where college sports are right now. All right. Because right now in football and basketball, because that's the one that we really care about when it comes to the NIL and recruiting and everything that goes along with it, everyone that loves college sports is telling us how terrible the state of college sports are currently. And there's some arguments that I would hear. I'm sure it's a major pain in the ass now with the NIL stuff. There'll be corrections. I think, didn't Boise say we're not even doing it anymore? I'm sure there's a lot of people that threw money around in the beginning thinking that it was the new version of free agency that are going, well, that wasn't worth it. Now that guy's playing in our rival in the same conference. So what's the point of all this stuff? But I would point to, hey, in 2014, there were 5 coaches in college football making $5 million or more. Going into the start of this season, I think that number is going to be at 40 coaches. Don Draper, that's what the money's for. I'm sorry the job is tougher, but the job has also exploded as far as how lucrative it can become and rewarding you for all those years you slept on somebody's couch as a GA and just hopping around and moving your family all over the place. It's a very, very tough profession, which adds a new layer of challenges, which I completely understand, but you're now being paid more than anyone ever possibly imagined. So there's a limit on how much sympathy that I'm going to have for anybody in this position. But the people that love it, the people that love the sport, and I love this sport, will point to a Harbaugh leaving Michigan saying, well, that's a warning, right? Maybe it was the money. Maybe it was him going back saying, I didn't actually accomplish the full mission with the Niners, so I want to do it again with the Chargers. Chip Kelly was at UCLA as the head coach, decided to go to Ohio State to be the top assistant there. He's one of the 3 highest paid assistants. I think his deal's $6+ million for 3 years there. But why would he leave a head coaching gig when you know Chip? It's like, would he really ever want to have to answer to somebody else? Well, maybe it's Ryan Day because of that relationship, or maybe it's because UCLA's broke, or maybe he felt like maybe I'm out of here in a year, so I'm going to go ahead and pick my next job before I'm forced to see what's available for me. But does that mean that's a wake up to college football? Maybe. Jeff Hafley, the head coach at Boston College, he goes and decides to become an assistant in Green Bay. What does that mean? That seems a little weird. Well, 4 years at BC, he was 22 and 26. I know they were better this year, but did he see the writing on the wall and say, maybe I'll get ahead of this? Or is it because college football is in so much trouble? And then we'll have the Kentucky offensive coordinator, Liam, mentioned, and it's like, well, he went to Tampa Bay. So now we start to kind of list, as I always point out when people are making arguments, you'll have a couple good examples, and then you're like, hey, let me just keep listing things that match the argument that I'm trying to make. You've got Kingsbury at USC, but that one actually makes sense because I'm not even sure it really counts because he was kind of in this waiting period of wondering what the next move was going to be because he wasn't going to take over at SC. So the point that I'm making here is that the people that love the college sports, the old school version of college sports, will point to all of these as examples of why it's broken. Hey, it may be broken or it may be adjusted, but it's certainly different. We all agree on that. But what does Hurley staying mean? Does that mean that you could point to that and say maybe it's not that bad? And as we know, this is not the only example that we have in daily life where you're pointing to the things that enhance your argument while simultaneously ignoring all the things that could defeat your argument, because that's what we do every single day. But for Hurley, it probably wasn't about the college challenges or the NBA challenges. It may have been more about, as good as I am and as much as I'm ready for the challenge, the Lakers challenge, because of roster, because of age, and because of some of the dynamics of that power structure, maybe that was enough for me to flirt, but ultimately say no. Tell you what, when they write the history books on the Alliance, they'll be like, college football season, they were competitive. Their first run in the NBA, not great. 2-2 last week, but undeterred. I'm going to go with 2 picks this week. Ceruti has been kind of our Tatum, just making everything happen, although his shooting percentage is better. So why don't you start us off, Ceruti, with your play? 4 legs.
Well, last week we did the finals bets, the big futures finals bets, and I actually think we're doing okay in those so far. Kyle and I both like the Celtics, looking pretty good. Luka, I think, has the most threes in the series, which I liked a lot. So those have actually been good. So maybe we need to do more like weird futures bets, and that's our angle. But we're back to the normal alliance again. Game 3, Celtics, Mavs. I'm going to go with Luka under 9.5 assists. I feel like the Celtics are playing him a certain way where they're okay with him scoring. I think he's going to have a big scoring game, but the total is like 32.5. So I'll just take the under 9.5 assists for Luka.
Okay, well, Kyle.
I appreciate you mentioning those finals futures because I'm still alive in all 4 of those futures. So with keeping that vision alive on my vision board in my office right above me, I'm going to say Jaylen Brown 20 plus points, which I said he would be 20 plus points for every game in the series. And we came pretty close. He got 21 in game 2, but we're just going to roll the dice again.
What else is on that vision board?
Jeeps.
Plural. Multiple Jeeps.
Yeah, Grand Cherokee and Cherokee. I think they both have their charms.
No Wrangler?
Bigger forearms.
Now they're everywhere. Wrangler.
That's fair.
Ooh, yeah. Take it easy. I hear you. The Wrangler guy's taking a stray today. Okay, this goes against my you can't fake desperate. And I still feel like game 2, if you're Dallas, you got 3 different things here. I'm surprised how upset people were that I just didn't think Tatum played that well. Maybe seeing it in person, I saw something different. Maybe you on TV saw something better than I did. I just thought towards some of those possessions, he was kind of lost and searching for what he wanted to do, which is probably the worst place to be as the number 1 option for a team. But yeah, the passes, I understand. I pointed out in game 1. The defensive attention that he is facing is beyond anyone else is facing. So, having said all of those things, I think getting Boston plus points in any point of this series, knowing that it's just playing out as a bad basketball matchup for Dallas, that I would take Boston plus 1.5. And I also think Tatum, the shooting just has to come back to mean a little bit, even with the defensive approach that Dallas has with sending everything at him. So maybe the assists save us on this one. So points plus assists, alt total over 27.5 for Tatum.
Yep. And that gets us to plus 403. So right in the money zone. Let's go.
Okay. Money zone. Like that zone. Finally, we have her. We have Joy Taylor, who's going to help us out with life advice. We're going to talk about a few other things. Of course, she comes from Fox, where her show Speak airs daily, 4:30 to 6 Eastern Time. And of course, her podcast with Taylor Rooks, Too Personal Show, which you can check out on YouTube as well. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for your patience, because this has gotten pushed back a couple times.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. I love when we do this very formal bit. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, look, I still am a radio guy at my core, so I always try to be professional at the beginning, even if I screw up the intros probably too often still for somebody who's done it this long. I was thinking about you the other day as this the Kyrie rejuvenation project continues. You sent me a text when he demanded a trade because we used to argue about this. You sent me a text and said, "Okay, I'm done. I finally see the light. Like I'm not going to defend Kyrie anymore." And really, I've had a few of these. It happened with Kentucky men's basketball. It happened with Anthony Davis playing the most games he's ever played in a season this year, where I just go, "Okay, I can't do it. I'm going to give up." And just when you gave up on Kyrie, it's probably been the best run he's had in about 7 or 8 years. So, do you want to retract that statement to me here?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't aware we were revealing private text conversations on the show. That's news. So, okay, I need to go back in my archives. Since we're
just sports debates.
Yeah. I retracted, of course. But I retracted so easily because, as you just admitted, I was defending Kyrie forever. I was like, it's not his fault. It's Boston. Nothing is Kyrie's fault. I think Kyrie has gone through a change. I think he's changed. I think we all do that. One of the conundrums of covering sports is we are also covering human beings who sports is a microcosm of society. You are not the same person you were 10 years ago. You are not the same person you were 20 years ago. I'm not the same person I was last year. If everything that we do, even though we are in the public light, is scrutinized and picked apart, and all of our actions day in and day out, it may look like we are the ones who are constantly wrong. There's lots of nuance to situations. And guess what? People change. I think he's changed. I think he's literally changed as a person. And that is reflecting in how he has interacted with Luka this season. I think it's shown in the success that they've had. And yeah, I feel happy for Kyrie. I'm happy that we're talking about his play and not everything else. And that everyone is back on the Kyrie bandwagon because he's a spectacular player to watch. And when he's in a situation where he can thrive, he's just a fun basketball player. And I know he's had some struggles this series, but overall, I retract. And I'm glad that Kyrie is in the space that he's in now. It's been fun to watch.
Did you pick Dallas, Joy?
I sure did. I picked them in 7.
Does that have anything to do with Boston? You just couldn't root for the Celtics, could you? You couldn't root to be right and root for the Boston Celtics.
Listen, I am a respected sports voice. Okay, so I will not have my integrity questions on my pick.
We'll strike that. We may edit that whole part out then because I don't want that to be.
But I will say, Drew made it very hard to pick against Boston because I love Drew Holiday.
Yeah, it's the kind of guy where I probably say this, like I say it about Bam. I say it about Jared Allen. There's a longer list, but if you could say all 30 teams could use this kind of player and then you could plug them in, and Bam's closer to like a foundational piece. And I know Drew has been that, but with Boston, his role is different. So he's not going to be the second or third option like he was for so many nights with Milwaukee's offense during the playoffs. So it's a bit of the surplus of talent that Boston has, that he has a diminished role that's not really in line with who he's been as a player. So I'm not comparing it like as Bam is this role player. I love Bam, but I think there are certain players where it starts with kind of how they adapt to the surroundings around them, but then also their personality and how malleable they can be of just understanding what's expected of them. I think Drew is kind of the epitome of that, and it's showing a lot in the finals.
And he's just such a smart basketball player. Like he's just like it's not so much that he is like hitting clutch shots. He just makes the right play. He's just in the right place to make the right play. I'm rooting for Drew. I would obviously never say that I'm rooting for Boston. I'm not rooting against Boston either. There are a lot of players. I root for your happiness. I think that would make you happy. So as your friend, that would make me happy.
You're rooting for my happiness? I would rather them win than lose, but I think that anybody really knows me, like when it went away was when a team that I cared about so passionately when I was younger, when they lost now, or if they lose now, I just go like, that's okay.
Nothing can hurt you anymore?
Not in sports. I don't think there's a sports hurt that I'm capable of. Now, granted, I'll admit there are takes that I've invested a lot of time in that I would go, well, if that were to happen, the opposite of what I believed, that might hurt from just a professional standpoint. But ultimately, like, none of it ever matters. Like when somebody is doing great that I don't love, or somebody who's doing awful that I put, like when the Suns lost to the Mavs in Game 7 at home, coming off of finals where I felt like a couple bounces here or there in 21, and then 22, I thought the team was even better. And then I had to do the pod with Bill that day. I wasn't thrilled, but it was more about like one little thing. But then as I've aged, as you said, as we all change, it sounds like you've changed abruptly from just 365 days later. I was happy you gave me the 10 and 20 year thing. It sounds like Joy Taylor is on that change train. So I would say that like whenever there's an outcome that I think I'm emotionally invested in, just based on sharing my opinions nonstop here for 2 decades, that I'll go like, how upset are you really going to be if this goes the other way? Like if this thing happens that you're hoping doesn't, or this thing does that you want, like, are you actually going to care? And then I realized I was like, yeah, I guess I'm not going to really care that much anymore. And I'll be honest, I don't know if it makes me a better person. Maybe it's healthier, but I do miss it. I do miss it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, being able to feel is something that I'm very jealous of from people. Like when people feel things, I'm like, wow, that's an experience I haven't had in a long time. I love that for you. With sports, really the only team, like I want the Steelers and I want the Dolphins to win, but the only team that can truly hurt my feelings is the Heat. And I do hold on to that because it's one of the few things like left in life that can really cause me angst. And
I've noticed that. You're right. Yeah, the Heat, that's a good example. That bothers you. Yeah.
It does bother me. Yeah. And I think I still need that, especially in this business, because I'm with you. Like if I'm wrong and Boston wins, I'm going to do exactly what I was planning on doing that day. And that's it. Like I'll put up a tweet about it and then I'll go about my day. But I do think I've held on to the Heat's passion because I've white knuckled to it because this is what we do every day. And I have to be able to relate to the insanity of fans.
Yeah, I think that's good. But I don't know why you got your hopes up with this Heat Celtics series this year. You thought it was going to happen again, didn't you?
Like I mean, that's what I'm saying. I have to remain delusional, and that's what I did. So
it helps you. Okay, so I know that
first of all, it was brilliant for me last year. Last year, I was on the fucking throne. Okay,
or insufferable debate. It's open for debate.
It depends on what you care about.
Wow, geez, there was an awkward pause. Okay, so with Taylor, you aren't doing just straight takes here. You were having. I know it's billed as these conversations that we need to have that are brutally honest. What's the most brutally honest thing that you've done? Because we're going to ask for that brutal honesty from you. I actually think guys are going to be more bummed out listening to your advice than my advice when we get to the questions here. But I wanted to make sure we got that in there because I've seen some clips, and it's funny. Like there'll be clips where it's just a couple pals talking about their daily routine, and then like any of the content that's shared, you just lit up for the day. But it's just a good reminder of how insane a lot of dudes can be, I think, whenever I see a clip that makes the rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything I've said has really been that inflammatory. And I think if you know me, most of what I've said has been rather mild. I don't think I've ever even got into the thick of like how intense of a person I can be. I think I'm easing everybody into it, honestly. The clips that went the most viral have been the conversation about splitting the bill that happened to my friends.
What was that?
So a friend of mine was going out with this guy. She went out with him twice. They had normal dates. He took her to dinner. They had 2 normal dates. And then he asked her out again. He wanted to go to this private club that he was not a member of, but she is. So he said, oh, like, let's go to this place and we'll hang out. So she takes him there, which is fine. Like, who cares at the moment? They hang out all day. She has to put her card down because she is the member. And when they go to leave, they can't find the server. And he goes, well, your card is down, so we're good. And she doesn't say anything and pays. And then they leave. They have plans for another date. They leave the next day. He texts her and says he's not interested in a long-term thing. He had a good time with her, but like, he doesn't want to lead her on, whatever. They shouldn't go on the next date. So she's like obviously upset about that, but she's also like, yeah, Andy stuck me for this like huge bill. Like he didn't even split it with me. this weekend. And I'm like, send him the split. Like, he's a grown man. Send him his half. Like, okay, cool. Like, thanks. Had a good time with you. By the way, this massive bill that you left me with.
Mr. Rose. Yeah.
Exactly. Mr. Spicy Margarita. So anyway, I told the story and all the guys were on his side. There's this like drizzle thing going on the internets. And I don't know, to me, I've never experienced this in my life. And this is apparently like a new movement. And then I took it a step further, as I always do. And I dubbed them princess boys because clearly they want the princess treatment. And being a woman of substance and means, I can provide that for them. Now, there's things that I want in exchange for taking care of a princess boy. And, if that is what men are interested in behaving like, I feel like I can do that. I can be that person for you. I can give you an experience you've never had. So they were not very happy with me about that one.
I like the movement. I'm not going to partake. Maybe it sounds like that guy just really wanted to go to that club pretty bad.
I mean, it's fucking Nerdville, but
I think I know what it is then. I think I know what it is. All right. Let's get to some emails here. lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. We asked for Joy specific ones and we have a bunch.
Okay.
So let me try to fire through as many of these as we can. Okay. My girlfriend scares me. Joy, 35 years old, 6'1", 180, 252 marathoner. Whoa, that's pretty fast.
Why do we need that?
I knew you weren't going to like that. We include as much background as we can.
Okay, good. We need background. You're right.
Yeah, we're incredibly efficient here because if a guy types out something like that, then all of a sudden like, okay, he's dedicated. He has major priorities. Maybe he's, who knows? You just take any direction you want to go to. My girlfriend at 8 months is great, kind, smart, ambitious, started and runs her own business. Very beautiful, like actually a Lululemon model. Hot. But she sometimes reminds me of my suburban upbringing, which terrifies me. I grew up in the suburbs of a major East Coast city, doesn't matter which one because they're literally all the same, which is the point. Mostly through luck. After undergrad, I moved out west, got a good job, had a chance to travel, now take great pride in being unrecognizable to anyone that knew me when I was 18. We live in Brooklyn now. I almost said Brookline. We live in Brooklyn now, share lots of interests like travel, good food, culture, but there are more than a few places where she reminds me of suburbia. Sometimes she buys clothes from Old Navy. She likes trucker hats. She listens to awful music, never watches good, aka my definition of good, aka highbrow, artful TV or movies, opting to watch Gilmore Girls for the 4,000th time. Most of the time, I think I'm being absurd, and each of these things individually is clearly trivial. Other times, when taken together, I envision all of those things being signals of a very basic and traditional future together, which is an idea that makes me want to die. Which inner voice should I listen to? Okay, Joy. There's the first one.
Okay. Well, your girlfriend does sound basic, but so do you. So what are we talking about here? What makes him so edgy? He lives in Brooklyn? Isn't that like the definition of not being edgy? Like you being a suburban kid moving to Brooklyn and now you think you're like hip? All right, look, man. My advice to you is figure out what your priorities are. If you want a woman to terrorize you, which is it sounds like you're interested in, maybe you take a break from the sweet girl who likes Gilmore Girls and doesn't stress you out. And go try go try and find, you're not going to find me. That's impossible. Go try and find go date like an OnlyFans model. And maybe that will make you appreciate your basic, super beautiful, ambitious girlfriend that is going to give you a basic life. I think people think they want more adventure than they actually do.
See, that's some good advice right there.
So don't, the grass isn't always greener. If you're feeling like she's going to provide a very simple and boring life for you, then you should go spice it up and see if that's what you're interested in. You might end up with more therapy in that way, though. So
Yeah, if she comes home and she's like, "Hey, let's throw on Killing Zoe," are you going to start liking her a little bit more?
Well,
Weird
look,
movie
it
came
doesn't
out in
sound
the
like
90s.
they're like compatible in the things that they're interested in. So if you are not having a good time with her because she doesn't like to watch the shows you watch or listen to the kind of music you listen to, like, I don't know. I don't know if that's not a reason to not be with somebody, but it sounds like you want a certain type of like image too, because you're trying to escape your suburban past.
I love how that one started. Okay, let's do another one. I think this is going to be even funnier. All right, shot coaching, please, for Joy.
Okay.
We're not talking about basketball, boys. All right, guys. Male, man, late 40s. R.I.P. to Jack Haley. Okay. My questions are for Joy. I've recently become single through no fault of my own, and I have met a few contenders lately, yet feel unsure as to what a sign for more versus what's just chit chat. So I'm in need of guidance whether I am getting the go ahead to shoot my shot. Scenarios. All right. So he's got 3 shot potential scenarios here. He names the women.
Let's not do that.
Females. Well, I don't know. Most of our listeners are smart. Let's just change the names. So, okay. Debbie, number 1. We went for breakfast and she showed me her new jeans, standing up to show how loose they were, giving me a view of her belly button and below. Okay. Shelby, example number 2. Whilst on a pre-date walk, she offered a bet that the loser had to wash the winner's car. The bet was a too easy Milhouse from Seinfeld bet, which she promptly lost. Okay. Example number 3. Let's call her Destiny. Having a casual drink at the bar, she mentioned her new tattoo, lifting up her skirt and showing me the ornate design on her thigh. Even more M's. Are these signs, Joy? Should I be shooting my shot at any or all of these? Thanks in advance.
I love how you changed all their names to like a strip club in Omaha.
What was the first name?
Debbie, Shelby.
Debbie's a very wholesome name.
Deborah, Shelby, and Destiny.
Shelby's debatable. Destiny, you've got me there.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of them are openings.
I feel like
at least. Now, I will say, the way that you wrote these stories and then Ryan read them could go either way.
You weren't impressed. You don't like this guy. You don't think he's cool, is what you're saying. I don't know you're going to think anybody's cool.
No. I think women are very hard to read. I think for a lot of men, flirting, like a simple conversation with a woman that you find attractive, some women or some men translate that as flirting when they're literally just speaking to you and you find them attractive. So I think that these little interactions at least could be misconstrued as flirting. I'm not showing anyone my belly button intentionally. The way this belly button is also just always weird for me. Like, why are you talking about a belly button? But
fair.
I wouldn't do any of these things and be surprised if someone then were to hit on me.
Okay. Yeah. I think the tattoo one is kind of a go.
The tattoo's a go. I think the car wash one is a go.
Yeah.
The belly button one could go either way.
Yeah, I think the jeans one, if she could just be super proud of her jeans, she also may have weighed 50 pounds more then, and she's just constantly like, "Oh my God, my clothes are so loose now."
Yeah,
you know,
I think 2 and 3. I think 2 and 3 are pretty solid goes. And but be a gentleman about it. Don't be like, "Hey, can I see your tattoo again?" Or like, "When you wash my car, can you do it in like a bikini?" Like, don't be weird. But yeah. I think 2 and 3 are like yellow lights. So yeah, I can't tell on 1, but 2 and 3 seem like yellow lights. So I would go for it.
I would agree with that one. All right, this one's a little bit more specific. Big fan, couple questions. Played a little baseball in college. Decent looking guy. Have an ex-wife, remarried, 3 kids, 2 from previous marriage, and a newborn with my current. Couldn't be happier. 40 years old, party lot, ran a prominent nightclub in Scottsdale for a while. Whoa. All right, this guy had no problem getting remarried if he's running a prominent nightclub in Scottsdale. Had fun, got out of the life, and since started a business, very lucrative, going on 18 years. All right. So this guy, he got out.
Very successful guy, lots of kids.
Yeah. And he got out early, though. I mean, that's I think about working in Scottsdale's nightlife, like after this contract. I've debated it. Have a sister who is a professor. We're not going to name the school. And a brother who was in the military. We've all done well for ourselves. My sister always complains at family gatherings that I was too possessive as a high school and college athlete, and to not say I was a big deal, and to not say I was a big deal. I never got paid to play, but what was it like being an attractive woman growing up? Did you resent your brother? Okay, all right. So this actually gets to a very Joy Taylor tailored question here about your brother. And essentially, did you have reservations about guys asking you out? Was it an obstacle? And I'd also like to know how you handled men like Skip Bayless types or Stephen A's within your field. Oh, wow. So this got really specific. So I think the general point is that he, as an older brother, was too possessive of her, the sister, and wondering with your family success, Joy, if that was something that you experienced, and maybe he's wondering if he was oblivious to it later on in life.
Yeah, Jason was definitely very possessive of me. He's 12 years older than me. So he had been in the league for a while before I came of dating age, because he got drafted when I was 10. But it was always we have a very like interesting family dynamic that we're very private people. So we haven't really gotten into it, but let's just say I didn't have a father figure in my life. Like, my parents divorced when I was 16, but I grew up in a very abusive household. So Jason was very protective of me. But it was always a weird dynamic because he's not my father, he's my brother. But I was always respectful of the environment that he was in. And we just, as a family, just respected how Jason moves about. Like, he's very private. He takes his, relationship with the media very seriously. He took his career very seriously. And I just wasn't about to be causing him public problems. I did my best for as long as I could. Obviously, I am, a character. Let's say that. But I tried to keep my behavior away from him. And I think eventually I just wore him down. But I never dated like any of his teammates or, I didn't have any of that around him. And I didn't ever feel resentful of him for that. He and I went through a lot of different iterations of our relationship. And I think because of the way that we grew up in a very chaotic environment, we each had our issues that we hadn't really like resolved within ourselves. We have a great relationship now. And we have I would never say I ever resented him in any way. Like, everything that he did was because he was my brother and he was trying to protect me and he was doing the best that he could. But, yeah, I mean, I think that was really like the bottom line. Like, I just didn't want to cause him any career issues. So any of my shenanigans were away from him.
Yeah. And obviously it's a little different with the spotlight versus the emailer here. But
right.
I don't know. I guess
but the principle's the same. Like, you want to protect your younger sister. You think you know best because you're a guy and you know how guys are. But like, at the end of the day, we know how guys are too. Like, you're not that stealth with how you guys move.
No.
So,
nope,
it's all
not
in love.
stealth. Yeah. Okay. We got a heartbroken guy here. 5'9", 160, just started grinding at the gym again recently. Pick comp is Ben Simmons, is that I basically don't play anymore. And when I do, I'm a facilitator who's scared to shoot. I was recently heartbroken by my partner, not sure how to proceed. 23, I met this woman, 27, on a dating app. We initially matched based on physical attraction and weren't really looking for a long-term relationship together. However, pretty quickly developed real feelings for each other. We started seeing each other in February. Things were moving pretty fast. We would text almost every day and see each other every Friday and the rest of the weekends if our schedule permitted. Being that I just graduated college last year and still live with my family for the time being, most of the time we spent together was at her place. Things were going well, or so I thought, until about a month ago. She texted me that we should stop seeing each other. To be completely honest, I'm not really sure what the exact reasoning behind this is. She stated that she needed space, was tired of hosting me every time we would hang out. There were no signs or communication about her feeling this way before. I asked her some more details about why she felt this way, but she refused to elaborate, and I didn't push the questioning as I obviously still care about her. I told her that I respect her decision, and we talked about staying friendly with each other. Never works. I wrote that in. We have not spoken since the split, and I've refrained from looking at her socials despite how hard it's been. I'm not even 100% sure I would get back with her if she wanted to. I would need some more information on what happened for her to want to split in the first place. No matter what I do, I cannot stop thinking about her, and I'm potentially what I potentially did to cause this. Basically, I do not know how to move on, even if I should move on. Should I give her space for the time being, but contact her down the road at some point? Wait and see if she ever reaches out to me again. We didn't end on bad terms, and I know she was going through a stressful time professionally, which may have contributed to her decision. I should also note that I brought up the age gap between us, 4 years, and my hesitancy around it, so that might have contributed as well. I'm trying to be as respectful as possible about everything, but knowing she likely won't reach out, even if she did want to talk or even get back together. My current plan was to reach out on her birthday in August and judge how to proceed by her response or lack thereof. Let me know if you think this plan is stupid or if there is another better course of action. I'm sure there are other listeners who are going through similar situations as well. Love the show. Okay, Joy.
You're a very good reader.
No, I wasn't very good in the beginning. I think I was nervous because of you, so I needed to step up.
Yeah, I'm glad you found your way. That was good. There. Sounds like this is over, my guy.
You could do this. If you did this instead of me, you would get through 20 of these episodes as opposed to us getting through 2. I would agree with you, but continue.
Yeah, it sounds like it's over. I wouldn't overthink bringing up the age gap. I mean, 4 years is not really, I guess in your 20s, it's more significant. In your 30s, it doesn't matter.
Not at all. But for a guy to go 23 to 27 right after college, that's a bit of a mind bender at that time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like in your 20s,
different.
Every year is so different. Like she obviously has a place, you don't. You're coming out of like another heartbreak. Wait, so the heartbreak is this one, or he was coming out of a heartbreak, right?
Let's go back. Let's check IT. I mean, obviously, this is the main heartbreak that we're focused on. I think she was coming out of something. She was going through something with work. So, yeah, we're looking. Go ahead, keep going.
So
I'll find it.
The point is, I think that this is done. I think this is done. She probably, if I'm reading into women, was probably like, yeah, you don't have your own place. You're constantly at my place. You're not at the same place in life as me. And that's probably what it's about. And to be honest, like if she is not really being friendly with you, then you're not really going to get a better explanation than that. And you might honestly not want it. Like, do you want to hear her say like, hey, you need to get your bread up and get your own spot? Like, probably not. And like in your 20s, that kind of age gap does matter because she's clearly doing different stuff than you. So yeah, I mean, getting closure is something that everybody wants. Like you want to hear the thing that's going to make you feel better about why something ended. But in reality, sometimes you get that and it makes you feel worse. And in the end, like, is it really going to fix anything? Like, she clearly didn't want to continue. She was nice enough to be honest with you about it because some people just ghost, which is annoying. So, yeah, it might suck, but I think it's probably time to focus inward, recalibrate and move on. And you never know, like maybe you see her down the line and things are different, but I wouldn't harbor onto or hold on to like feelings just because you're hoping that she circles back with a better explanation. It's probably just that she wanted to be able to go to your place sometimes and you can't do that. I've been in situations like that where a guy's had his place and I just didn't want to go over there. And
uh-oh.
Listen, I mean, if you don't change your sheets, like that's a quick way to get me to never be at your house again.
There you go. Yeah, guys out there, get those in the mix. You don't learn that until a little bit later in life, but you better learn it as opposed to never learning it.
I mean, imagine a naked woman in your bed and your sheets haven't been washed in 2 to 3 months. Insane.
Yeah, tough look. Although guys in their 20s don't understand that. And here's the great thing about clean sheets. As a girlfriend once told me, she was like, "Don't you love when they're new and fresh?" And everything, and like you get them out of the dryer and then you put them down. And like the first time you get into bed, that first day they're fresh. It's like, you could actually do this more and experience that feeling more often as opposed to this yearly tradition. Again, this is when I was a lot younger. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Joy gags. Yeah, look, when dudes were young, they were like, wait, people clean these regularly? Makes sense. You get old, you start to learn this stuff. I think this one's really simple. I think it's really simple. And I actually feel good for our guy. You were clearly good looking, and she wanted to hook up with you for a while. You said that you matched in an app because of a mutual physical attraction, but your roommates are your parents, okay? And maybe you'll meet her at some point where your roommates aren't your parents. And at this point, I think she just liked hooking up with you. You said the routine was pretty standard, this Friday through the weekend deal. You didn't see each other through the rest of the week. And then once she got over whatever she was dealing with, she was like, okay, maybe I need something a little bit more real. But that tells me that you're that attractive that she was willing to make this deal for 4 months. And it was only 4 months. You met in February. You sent the email in May. So you probably are so good looking that she allowed this dynamic to continue for a little while. So that means you're going to have plenty of opportunities. Like we're telling you already. When maybe she got back together with somebody else or whoever, but I think the fact that you were even in this spot right after college and you live with your parents and a 27-year-old that you were attracted to was like, I'm down for just weekend hookups over and over and over again, because that's really what it feels like it was for it to end this abruptly on top of everything else. I know you're sad now, but know that you have all this potential. You have, like, if you pulled this off, you're going to pull something else off. So I think that's kind of how she looked at you in this 27 to 23 route that maybe goes against the grain in the male-female historical archives. But even though you're bummed out now, you have such a bright future.
I agree. I agree. It's a solid move, bro. Just don't stress out about it. You're not going to get the closure you want. Just charge it to the game and build on this.
Exactly. I don't really think. Too bad Kyle's not here. Okay, we have one here that's very quick. What's up, guys? Joy, big fan of both. When I heard Joy was joining for life advice, I instantly thought of the mutual friend Colin Cowherd. Who between Ryan or Joy give Colin more street cred, make him more valid between the two of us? Uh-oh. I shouldn't have read this one. Okay. Do we just move on?
Who picked these up for you? They set you up so bad.
That one is brutal. I don't even think we need to answer that one. I think the answer is fairly clear. All right, we got 2 more. My husband's borderline addicted to podcasts, and I fear that is affecting our newborn daughter's development. Scarcely a moment goes by during his waking hours in the home when there's not at least one AirPod in his ear with some podcast or YouTube video playing. This has been an annoyance throughout our relationship, and my frustration has been compounded now the attention he pays to podcasts and YouTube videos distracts him from taking to and interacting with our newborn. Yes, he completes his house chores dutifully, including feeding, changing, and bathing our daughter. But there have to be some guardrails on his listening habits because right now there are none. Can you please help me and all the other wives out there dealing with a similar problem? So we got a one-ear daily chores podcast guy. Joy?
But this is from a woman.
Yeah, oh yeah. We have women listeners, female.
Were you unsure what we prefer these days?
No, it's an ongoing joke because I think we said women, and then somebody wrote in that we should say female, or now I forget if when we said female, somebody said you should say.
Yeah, it was female, and someone said you should say women.
Women, right? Yeah. So then we started just saying female women. We're just fighting back a little. That's all.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sis, I gotta tell you, you gotta relax. You gotta chill out.
She's changing, feeding, chores. She's doing all those things. I don't know. Sounds like
it sounds like you have a good husband that has a wholesome hobby. That's what it sounds like. You know what else it could be his hobby? Cheating on you. You know what else could be his hobby? Gambling away your mortgage. You know what else could be his hobby? Supporting an OnlyFans model.
Is that an easy hobby to get into?
It's a very efficient app.
Oh, okay.
What else could be his hobby?
Is there an OnlyMans?
Yeah.
What if I just got on there and it's like, here's the takes that are too spicy for podcasts? I wonder how I would do if I did it
You'd
with
have
my
to do it
shirt
like
off.
shirtless. Yeah.
Well, I'd have to do it after like chest or shoulders day because I think just walking around shirt off isn't as impressive. We'll try to get there though.
Yeah,
No goal. Yeah.
Look,
yeah.
I understand. Like people are annoying. We all have things about like our partners that annoy the fuck out of us, but I kind of, I don't really love agreeing with men, but I kind of I'm on bro's side on this. Like he's taking care of your kid, he's present, he's taking care of the house, and all he likes to do is listen to podcasts. Like you need some perspective. There are some really terrible husbands out here, and unless there's something else going on, what kind of podcast is he listening to? Like, I guess that is a follow-up question, because I guess there are some podcasts that could be breaking his brain, but in general, like he's listening to the Ryen Russillo podcast. It seems like it seems like you're in a good spot. Like you got.
Although we did have a
compromise.
A mom wrote in saying that because there's this phenomenon going around where people are telling me that their kids can't fall asleep unless they put on the podcast, my podcast. So I don't know if this will be a career pivot, but like, could I just read children's books and then I save the sleep patterns of people all over the country? Could we have the stuff translated?
Is that like
global
a
thing?
Really creative way of saying you're boring?
I've yet to be offended. I could imagine there's a few monologues. Look, there's some monologues that I do, Joy, where I go, who's that for?
Did I just introduce that thought to you?
No, trust me. No one is less impressed with me.
Yes, I'm aware. We've been over this.
Right.
It's my least favorite bit that you do. But
yeah, but at the same time, I am fairly confident.
Yes, it's why it's my least favorite bit. And I yell at you all the time about this, as you know.
Yeah, but if we went deep into this, there's no lack of confidence here. I think we would agree there. I just feel like professionally what I've done, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you do this whole self-deprecating bit.
But I don't think it's self-deprecating.
It is.
It's not. It's for me. I think there's other things that I was capable of doing. So yeah, that's all. It's a professional thing. It's not a personality thing. I don't walk around, trust me, and I think you know this. I don't walk around being like, oh, I'm a fucking loser.
No. I know it's purely professional, and it's rather silly, and I rebuke it every time you do it. So we're doing it again.
Thanks for
you're very successful. You've done amazing things in the business. You're great. People listen to your podcast. That's why I'm here.
Right. Is it potentially really boring to infants? It probably is. Why would an infant like this? Maybe there's something in
your tone that is putting children to sleep. So maybe this woman also needs to just try and have him listen to your podcast and like take the AirPod out, and then maybe the baby will sleep better. And then that's the solve.
Sounds like he's doing a lot of stuff in there. So, but I get it. I think it's just hey, are you potentially not paying attention to stuff you do? It's like, no, I can do this. I'm capable of doing both things. It's like, yeah, but I don't like the way you're doing both things. I think that's where this kind of falls.
Yeah, maybe she feels like he's not like mentally present. So maybe the compromise is maybe like when you guys are spending time together, he doesn't listen to podcasts. But like, again, I don't want to dismiss this lady's experience, but it just seems like you're kind of bitching. To be honest.
Ouch. I wouldn't. Glad you said it. I wasn't going to say it. Being present is currently man's greatest fear because they don't understand it. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm sitting right here. And it's like, no, but you're not present. And no one, this is the new game level that we have to unlock. All right. We have one last one. Okay. All right. Joy, this guy I know has been inviting me out on his boat. The problem is something always seems to come up. I respect how hard he works, but it's leading me to wonder if he even has a boat. I mean, it's not like no boat is a deal breaker, but a girl can't lie. I don't hate that he has one, parentheses, if he does. It's from Marsha.
This is Marsha?
Yeah.
This is a wildly relatable question. This is tough.
Is he lying about the boat potentially?
Where do I go with this? I mean, has he recently shared the boat? Like, have you seen this boat? He could be lying about the boat for sure.
Could be lying.
He could be lying. He could be renting the boat. It could be
what
his
if it's a
friend's boat.
timeshare? Yeah, right, or something like that.
Yeah, it could be his friend's boat, or like not even timeshare. Like you just rent the boat. So he was like planning on taking you out, and now it's been booked or something. Yeah. I don't really know what to tell you, girl. Like, ask him to see like what do you do as a boat? What do you have as a boat owner? You have like a boat license? Like maybe he's got to show you that.
Some guys aren't even licensed. Neanderthals. Yeah, I think you'd have to see a picture with him holding up a newspaper from that day behind the wheel. But even then, he could just be telling his friend.
Go get a spoon, go out to your boat, take a picture on the boat with your spoon so I'd know, because you would never do that unless I asked you to do that.
Right. Yeah, but it still could be a friend's boat. Maybe it would have to be a video of him driving. But again, maybe he's just his friend. Just trust him behind the wheel because he knows he has good sense of direction.
Yeah, I mean, depending on, it's good that she respects how hard he works. That's nice.
I bet she does. I believe her. I believe the email.
Well, Marcia, it seems you're in a pickle. Let us know.
Sure does.
I want the follow up to this. Find out if he's been lying about this boat.
I can't wait. I hope she sends in an email. I hope we
this is the only one I'm interested to see how it ends.
Fair enough. Thank you for doing this. I don't know if you made anybody feel better, but you made them feel more honest.
I don't think I made anybody feel. I think it was very harsh on your listeners.
Yeah, that was a touch. And if we want more perspective like this, when does the podcast with Taylor come out?
Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. The audio drops before that, but yes, on Wednesdays. It's too personal show. You can email it. You can email us questions too. We take one question a show. toopersonalpodcast@gmail.com. I will say I am much nicer to our listeners than I feel like I was to yours. So maybe I need to ratchet up the intensity on Too Personal. I also want to say, while I have everyone's attention, that MJ Acosta Ruiz and I have a show coming out on Fuse August 21st, Like a Girl, season 2. So it's a episodic series interviewing female athletes, female athletes on Fuse. So we'll have more on that soon.
Based on the concept of that show, that's a great title. And titles aren't always well executed. So I think that'll be really good. You're making moves. Thanks as always, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Thanks to Wargon. Thanks to Ceruti. Thanks to Kyle for joining us on the Alliance. Ryen Russillo Podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube page and the podcast on Ringer and Spotify.